A very warm welcome to Looking Back with Stephen Davidson, that's myself, and our very special guest today is stand-up comedian, writer, producer, Scottish comedy legend, Mr. Phil Differ. How are you doing, Phil?
Doing very well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm delighted to be here in the swish surroundings of the Brunton. I can see there's,
good, isn't it?
just to give you a picture, those of you listening to this, there's plates of quail's eggs, there's caviar, vol au vents, and everything's been laid on. It's very, very plush. Philip, you've been very, very successful in the world of TV comedy. Now, how long have you actually been doing stand-up?
Stand-up, I think it's 12 years, believe it or not. I was a judge at a very early quest to find Scotland's brightest young comedian. The Daily Record was running. It was won by Gary Little, that shows you how long ago it was. And I found myself sitting in the audience as a judge. And I didn't want to be a judge, I wanted to be judged. And I was just really envious of the guy, I really was. I suddenly thought, I need to give that a go. Whether I'm any good at it or no, I don't know, but I'll give it a go. So I gave Fred McCauley a shout. Fred was a pal of mine, and I said to him, what do you think? I think I should try it and that. And he says, what are you doing on Tuesday? This was Thursday. I says, nothing. He says, right, I'm on at the stand, come on, do 5 minutes in my show. So Bluff was called, I did the 5 minutes, and I knew then that I needed to keep doing it, really, just to, I enjoyed it, basically, too much.
And did you feel any extra pressure doing the stand-up because of your success in the world of comedy?
I did. Do you know, I think I was asking Fred for permission to jump the fence, if you like. I said to Fred, do you think people will resent the fact that I'm doing it? You know, what does he think he is? He can produce and reject our scripts and all that, and then wander in here. And he says, no, not at all. He says, it's a very... stand-ups are a very diverse bunch, you know, it takes all sorts, so I was quite happy to do that and start at the very beginning, you know, and that's the only place you can start with stand-up, really.
And did you find differences in the way you were writing for the stage as opposed to writing jokes for TV, and was just the craft completely different? I take it there's obviously a crossover, but...
The main thing was that I didn't have to run it past anybody. And in a kind of funny way, it liberates you, but it also puts the onus and it is on you, basically, because, you know, if I would give a script to somebody and I don't like that, there can be a discussion, but if I read something, I think, well, that's really funny, and the wee voice in my head says, well, I don't think that'll work. Where do you go? You're having this kind of like schizophrenic argument with yourself. But then I got to quite, you've got to go by your own judgment. I mean, it's just like when I would hand over a script to anybody, whoever it was, in my mind I had done all, it was ready to do, and I just had to go, that was, if I thought it was ready to do, then go and do it. If it's wrong, it's only you that you've got to beat up, you know, you don't have to have an argument. You've just got the long drive home from Edinburgh, Glasgow, going over it in your head. But that was the main thing. It was that liberating thing that it was down to me.
Yeah, and the immediacy of the reward of getting a laugh straight away from a joke is just fantastic.
That is the big thing that we all. I've always said that all stand-ups are gamblers, basically. You know, we're gambling with our material, and that the audience will like us and what have you. And the laughs, that's your winnings. You know, that's that you get that thing. And the first couple of times when you crack a couple of lines and you get that immediate response, and you don't need to edit it, and you don't need to say, sorry love, can we do that again, or that sort of thing. It's right, it's there for you. And then the first time you do it and you don't get anything, it's that learning how to take that and move on. Well, there's still that wee voice, I wonder why that didn't get a joke, as you go into the next, didn't get a laugh, sorry, as you go into the next joke. So all that kind of juggling thing, I had to learn that, but I think it comes pretty quickly to you. Once you start gigging, you pick that up.
And do you think that's, now that you've made that jump, do you think you'll be standing on stage till your dying day now?
No, I don't think so. It does get harder, and the risk of sounding, you know, like making it sound grand and pretentious. It's just remembering things. that's the problem. I tell you what I used to do. I used to really beat myself up if I'd learned a routine in my head and go on and miss a gag. And now I think, well, look, the audience don't know I've missed it. I know what difference does it make? They didn't get that gag, but they got an extra gag. So if you can kind of treat I treat my routine as like a blueprint, and if I'm able to diversify and go off and ramble and come back, then that's fine. It doesn't matter if you miss jokes, you know.
Yeah. And finally, Philip, in this section of the show, having made your comedy debut at quite an advanced age, if you don't mind me saying
that. I
that.
was 48. That seems young to me now.
Yeah.
I was 47. Beg your pardon. 47.
What would you say to other ancient people listening to this show, thinking about giving it a go?
Give it a go. It's never too late. What I would say though is do your own material. But there's no point going out there getting a bunch of jokes off the internet or borrowing from established comedians, shall we say. Do your own thing, because it's about your own expression. That's the thrill of it. I do see a lot of older comedians, and they are all doing three men went into a pub type gags and that, which is fine. That's okay. But as long as you've written it, if it's all gags, what's the point? You're just doing it to get kind of adulation, which we are not doing it for, of course, obviously. But at least we're firing our own material. So go for it. That's what I say. Go for it. You're never too old to stand up there and make a complete arse of yourself.
That's good advice. Okay, the time has come. We're going to play a record, and then we are going to explore the landscape of Differland. We're going to shine the torch into the darkest caves of the mountain of your life. Phil, are you ready to relive and embrace your at times brutal past?
Well, I don't know. Give it a go. At some point I may break down, and at some point I may just leave. But it's just because there are nerves here that I'll react if they're poked, basically.
This is Sargasso and Winter Sun.
In your heart, suffocating, like some black art, invigorating. Your youthful arms around my neck, I'm chaos mess of a nervous wreck.
Welcome once again to Looking Back with the sensational Mr. Phil Differ. Phil, your recent stand-up comedy life and your involvement in a number of legendary comedy hits has been well documented, but it's the time before that success, which is just extraordinary, and people don't know so much about that. So we have to return to the 14th of July 1961 for the defining moment of that period. I can see you nodding at that particular date. To paint a picture for those listening, you've consumed approximately 10 cans of special brew, and you wake up sitting in the street opposite a Bank of Scotland branch with the wail of police sirens all around you. Did you have any idea at all at that point whether or not you'd actually been involved in robbing the bank?
No, because I'm just amazed that you've been able to find out about this. I thought I had erased this from all the outlets. I mean, given it was in 1961, you said.
Yeah.
I was 5 at the time.
Yeah.
And I had been drinking. And where I was brought up in Kilsyth, you were taught to drink at an early age. You
5 would be late, I suppose.
Well, I was quite a late developer, because I'd learned to walk by that stage. I would be going to school in August. In fact, to be honest, I didn't go. I just went straight to university because I was pretty clever at that time. But there was the drink, and I'd had a few drinks, and then somebody said, "Wouldn't it be great to be an outlaw?" Like, we didn't want to be bad. We just wanted to be outlaws. There's a difference between being a criminal and an outlaw. An outlaw, you got to ride a horse and wear a cowboy hat and that sort of thing. And we had guns, and guns were pretty, they were taboo even then. But we rode into town. It was all, we rode into town, shot up the sheriff, that little joke. And that led to comedy, but that day wasn't about comedy. That day was about getting the money. And we went in there and we created hell, basically.
Yeah. So you got the money and then had a drink to celebrate, fell asleep outside the bank.
Yeah, well, that was basically it. Well,
sirens, did you run? You heard the sirens, did you just run?
Well, it was. I couldn't run because we were so drunk at the time. Basically, it was my friend. He said his father was the Sundance Kid.
Yep.
The original Sundance Kid. The outlaw, not Robert Redford, the real guy. A lot of people think, just to digress slightly, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid escaped to Bolivia. They actually escaped to Kilsyth. Right. And they were living in Kilsyth at the time, a petty crime, and his son, he was the Sundance Kid Kid.
Yeah.
The Kid's Kid, sort of thing, once removed.
That was catchy, but still good.
It wasn't the same, and he, to be fair, I mean, he did Sundances. You know, it's not very nice. When he was getting baptised, the priest refused to baptise him because he said Sundance wasn't a Christian name, but he was stuck with Sundance Kid, and then because it was Kid, Kydd, but he took out the Y and took one of the D's off, made it Kid, as in Kid. But anyway, it was his idea, and I'm blaming him. He was the brains behind it. We went in, we shot up the place pretty bad, and then he said, "Look, we've got the money," and it was a lot of money. It was about 29 and 11. You know, it was quite a lot of money in those days. And he then give me the money. I'll go and get a drink. He get a drink. I think he only spent about 17.6 or something like that. So it's quite. He got away with about half of it. Next thing I know, I'm sitting there and the police are around me. Don't move, and the guns were on me basically. What do you do in that situation? Yeah,
and by my calculations, the Sundance Kid must have been early 40s or so. And you're 5. Yeah, he is gone. There's no sign of him. He escapes.
He skedaddled, to use his phrase.
Yeah, and you're arrested, and that leads to what initially looked like a 10-year stretch in Barlinnie prison, and that is of course the stretch between.
No, it was Alcatraz.
Alcatraz.
Yeah, because I knew the Sundance Kid. And
has this just been brushed up in your book then?
Well, I mean, the whole Barlinnie thing. I had to say that because
Alcatraz too glamorous. Is it too glamorous to?
Well, I didn't want to glamorise it. If you see you're in Barlinnie, people say, "Oh, that's pretty cool." You know, Barlinnie's a cool place, but if Alcatraz is tougher. So it was Alcatraz because I'd been hanging about the Sundance. It was all to do with because he was technically an American outlaw. I think they really wanted Butch and Sundance or Butch and Sundance Kid.
Yeah.
But they got me, they decided to make an example of me. Next thing, I'm in Alcatraz, in the next cell to the Birdman of Alcatraz, and I never slept away. I was sentenced to 300 years, you know that thing you do in America again? So 300 years, but I was behaving well and all that. I tell you, see, living in the next cell to the Birdman of Alcatraz, he's on out the budgies.
Yeah.
And it was just horrendous.
And you'll probably remember this voice from the early days, Philip.
When you first walked in, I could see you had a different way about you. You were like a friendly demon.
Yes, of course, your first cellmate, Kevin Dunn. What did you think he meant by that?
Well, to give him his full Kevin Machine Gun Dunn, he was. I was actually scared of him. I was actually slightly frightened of him. And I had no idea what he meant by that. And I think he thought he was good at accents. He fancied himself as a bit of a Rory Bremner, and he thought he was doing a really good Scottish accent for me. To be fair, I think he was just saying "Welcome to Alcatraz," you know, because "Welcome to the Rock." That's what they say to you, and I think that was just his way. But it was not. I have to be honest, you know, now that he's dead, you know, he's no longer with us. I never liked him, Machine Gun Dunn. Oh no.
I mean, he'd brutally beaten his previous 5 cellmates, but in your autobiography you say that you were never worried because of your special move. What was that move?
Well, basically it's called a boot in the boys, basically, right? So, you know, when you walked in, the first thing you did was you booted him in the boys, and that kind of let him know where I was coming from. I mean, I have to say, the 5 cellmates that he beat them up at the same time. He was, everybody else had 1 cellmate. When it was crowded, he asked for 5, and they gave him 5. And I think they knew what he was going to do. I think it was just a way of doing it. He beat them up, and the cells were not big, and so there was nowhere to hide. That's how. Between you and me, you know, Clint Eastwood is the only man to escape from Alcatraz. It was because he was in the cell with Machine Gun Dunn, and he thought, "I'm getting out of here." And he was so desperate, he pulled a radiator grate, air thing vent off the wall, and just got out. And of course, the cell had 6 people in it. When they looked in, there's 5 people. They didn't notice that Clint Eastwood was missing. He got away. And then, can I just say, he said, "If I ever break out of here, I'll give you a shout," and he never did, and I've never forgiven him for that.
That is brutal. And I think after Eastwood, nobody until Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage escaped from Alcatraz, I don't think.
Let me correct you, they broke into Alcatraz.
Of course.
Nobody had ever broken into Alcatraz, because who wanted to break into Alcatraz, you know? So they decided, let's make a film where they break into Alcatraz, and they broke into Alcatraz.
And did you see that?
I was still there. I was the last man. My pen pal for a long time was Rudolf Hess, who was in Spandau. Yeah. And he was the last guy in Spandau, and I was the last guy in Alcatraz, and we used to send these emails. It was before emails, it was letters. It's not very funny. Yeah. I don't really want to go into it. You know, he was dodgy. You know, he still believed in his beliefs, you know, and I said, Rudolf, you're out of order. And he's going, no. He says, I know what I'm talking about. But anyway, we used to back and forward. And he said to me, I hear they're making a film about Alcatraz. And I'm like, what was it about, an escape? I said, I've already done that. She said, no, it's getting in. He says, Sean Connery, one of your, a Scotsman. Yeah. And, but...
Did you shout, or did you reach out when you saw him? Did you shout to him through the bars?
Well, see, the thing is, as you may know, I mean, like, people who know Sean Connery, they don't call him Sean, they call him Big Tam. Yeah. Because he's from Edinburgh, he's a milkman. And I'm going, oh, Big Tam, your milk is sewer and all that. Yeah. And he blanked me. Come on, he didn't know me, but I knew.
It's harsh.
I know, it's pathetic.
And let's move on from Sean. You quickly become one of the most popular prisoners with your sculptures of witches. Mm-hmm. You know, what made the men so desperate to get their hands on the witch sculptures?
Well, they were desperate for any kind of woman, really. Yeah. There was a ban on women in Alcatraz. That's one of the things that, you know, like, you would have thought that on an island full of prisoners, that at least they would have had as a brothel. You know, they thought that would calm things down, but they were totally against that. So when I started doing the witch, when I met Jimmy Blair, and it was kind of it was the Blair Witch project. It was his project, and I kind of like, he wasn't very good. His hands were going, his eyesight was going. I said, Jimmy, tell me what you want to do, and I'll do it. I'll be your hands, and you can be my eyes, or something like that. And we did these things, and of course they were incredibly popular. And they actually, at one point, the witch sculptures were actually even more popular than, you know, the nude playing cards that you used to get. You know, well, they were like more valuable than cigarettes at one point, drugs and things. People say, I've got some cocaine, I've got some heroin, I've got some cigarettes. You go, no, have you got any nude playing cards? Because they were the big thing. Well, the witches, I'm proud to say, the witch sculptures were even more popular than the nudie playing cards.
That is a result of
it. It is, it is. And it's a shame that has been overlooked, because that's something that Scotland should be really proud of.
Yeah, I mean, you've not mentioned it at all, you've stuck to the sculptures themselves, but I mean, there's numerous unconfirmed reports throughout your life of you using black magic to get ahead in your life. Are you willing to comment on the connection between that and the witch sculptures, or?
No, well, I have on occasion conjured up the devil. Yeah. And he's somehow me a drink in him, let me tell you. And you know, anytime I conjured up the devil by playing a Black Sabbath album backwards. Yeah. And you know, noises like is that how you conjure up the devil? So I'm doing this one night. You've got to do it 666 times. And suddenly I turned around and there he is, Beelzebub, and he says, "This better be good. This better be good." Because
so are you still in Alcatraz at this point?
Technically, yes. Yeah. Technically, yes. I was out on parole. Yeah. Basically, I was out on, and here they call it on license, but because I was out on parole, and I was living in Transylvania at the time. That's a long story, but it's good. I know it's got a reputation. It's a good place to go if you're going to conjure up the devil. And he was great. As I say, he's an awful man with a drink in him. He's fine when you're saying, I want you to destroy this guy, and I want you to kill him, and I want his head to fall off and all that. And then he has one over the end. Suddenly it's so is it a song he's want? And then he's on the bus or on the train singing, and people, of course, they don't believe he's the devil. They just think he's a nuisance, a jakey. and you're trying to please, for God's sake, don't rile this guy, he can destroy the world.
Yeah, well, that's why he's known as the demon drink, isn't
it? The demon drink, exactly that. And he claims that that's, as he's got a t-shirt where I am the demon drinker. You know, like I am a cider drinker, do you remember at the Wurzels?
Yep.
He claims that they nicked I am a demon drinker and they plagiarised it. And I'll tell you, I wouldn't like to be the Wurzels. If it's still about, the devil's got it in for him, I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's such a quick, because I was in a bar with the Wurzels, and I remember overhearing one of them saying that the devil had all the best tunes.
Well, he did have until they nicked him.
Yeah.
So, Wurzels beware.
It's hard to feel sorry for the devil, but you do, don't you, a wee bit?
No, you do. I mean, the Rolling Stones were absolutely right. Sympathy for the devil.
Yeah.
They wasn't it his fault. He got the gig. He was Lucifer, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he was a good gig, a good job in heaven. Him and the angels, they were like the archangels were like the Beatles, they were like the Fab Four. And he's up there and he's having a great time. Suddenly he has a fallout with God over whatever, I don't know, but maybe how many commandments there should be or something like that, 10's too many, whatever. And next thing he knows, he's cast out and he's in hell basically. And as AC/DC said, hell ain't a bad place to be. Well, au contraire, it is, and I know because he told me.
Yeah, and it's difficult not to. I'd see that your sentence was reduced from 12 years to 1 in the end.
No, it was actually reduced for 300.
Sorry, 300. That's right.
To 1.
So it was 12 initially, then up to 300.
Then up to 300.
Bad behaviour, and then down to.
Just for being me. It was because I was Scottish.
Yeah.
That was it. They're always picking Scottish guys. That's it.
So let's go happier times. Let's go to happier time. Let's go to the day that you walk out the door of the prison, and you'll remember this. Well, everyone will remember this because this is an iconic picture which was up in student bedrooms in the 70s for a long time. You are picked up outside the jail by Mick Jagger's then wife Jerry Hall. I mean, how on earth did that come about?
Well, that's another story because she was seeing Mick Jagger. Mick didn't know this, but she was seeing Rupert Murdoch at the time.
Way back then?
No, she was on the fly. Rupert was quite a good looking guy back then. This was a good few years ago. And Mick Jagger, Mick. For me, Mick spent far too much time on the wrinkle cream, right? And it was a complete waste of time. Him and Keith were always trying, trying this, try that, and he kind of ignored Jerry Hall, and she was seeing Rupert Murdoch at the time, who was a friend of my dad's, basically.
Yeah.
They used to meet the bookies quite a lot. They were bettors, they were gamblers. My dad used to rely on Rupert Murdoch's newspapers for his horse tips.
Yeah.
And Rupert says, I didn't have the heart to tell him that the horse tips were a load of crap, basically. But that's how they met, and that's how I knew that Jerry Hall was seeing him. So the whole thing about me being there, that was just a front, basically. That was to distract. That was so that Mick would come after me, and her and Rupert could, disappear to
That's incredible. That has echoes of the Charles and Camilla going on in the background, and then they get together a long time after.
Well, I knew about that a long time.
Yeah. And I suppose that your friendship with Jerry, that must have been connected to the fact that you managed to. I didn't realise you were friends, so that kind of explains my next question. But how did you convince her to put her name to your new Throat Sweets? But obviously your friendship.
Well, that was because as you know, she was. I don't know if she was married to Brian Ferry or if she was just living with Brian Ferry, but her and BF they were close. They were very close. I think they had kids and things like that. And as you know, Brian Ferry had a very distinctive voice.
Yeah.
And that one day, Roxy Music were set to go and they were supporting Jethro Tull at the Madison Square Garden, of course. And of course, Ferry's voice is gone, and he's trying. He can't. He just what's the name? And he's all over the place. And I had a wee remedy. It was an old Irish remedy because half my family are Irish. Try this remedy, and he took it. And it was a kind of throat lozenge that I'd made up, just the one.
Yeah.
He took it, and what's the name, Virginia? Oh, the voice was absolutely brilliant, and that's where the throat lozenges came in. They were sort of like, they weren't really sort of fishermen's friends, they were kind of rock stars' friends. They were really good for
and that is a great marketing angle for the sweets as well.
But I kept it quiet, I didn't want to let it know. I said, look, Jerry, you and Brian, you deal with that. That's my gift to you. And of course, they marketed it, made a lot of money, and cut me out. That's another story. You know?
And you gave them the name. Well, you gave them everything, because they had a hugely successful sweets and sculpture business, and so they took everything, didn't they?
Well, Easter eggs is my idea as well. I mean, that is a sweet sculpture, a chocolate sculpture as an egg, but you know, not just the egg. You know, you get eggs and they've got all the wee lines on them, the wee sort of shapes. You know, that was my idea. Previous to that, Easter eggs were just like eggs. There was no
real eggs.
Yeah, they were just smooth. And I thought, if we put like hexagons over them, and we put sellotape over them, the silver paper over them, this will look pretty cool. And that's what they did.
And is that why? Because I saw their business for a while. It was called Sweets, Sculpture and Sorcery, as a kind of tribute to you. Sorcery in very wee letters, remember?
Yeah.
And then it became Sweets, Sculpture, Sorcery and Lines on Eggs. And then it got so, the title was so long that they sold the whole thing. And at that point, Brian Ferry gives you a huge sum of money, doesn't he?
It gives me a huge
sum of money to make up for cutting you out. I mean, that's what he said.
Well, well, it depends what you call a lot of money. If to me, a lot of money is $100 million. The kind of money Hulk Hogan gets for sex tapes and things like that. Brian Ferry gave me. He gave me £90 million. Now, £90 million is nothing these days. It's nothing. Well, what can you get for £90 million? Nothing. So I think Brian's been a bit false, shall we say?
Yeah. I mean that 90 million is peanuts, really.
That's peanuts.
You decide it's good. A good thing happens from it. Like, you decide to give all that money away to Prince Charles, and you state that none of it can be used for charitable purposes. But were you surprised that he accepted the money under those terms?
Not really, because Camilla's demanding. Camilla's very demanding. She's got to have a new Barber jacket every day. She collects Land Rovers.
Why Charles rather than a Mother Teresa type? Why did you give it to Charles rather than a Mother Teresa type?
I like Charles. I felt like an affiliation with Charles because he lost his hair quite young. I mean, I'm getting on about it. My hair's falling out. That's fine.
Sorry, a brief interruption there. That was.
Did you pick up the knock on the door there? Would you pick up? Well, that was.
This is Ferry, isn't it? This is Ferry. Stop this again for a second. This is sabotage. Nothing more, nothing less.
He has. I didn't even do this. He hired Booker T and the MGs to come and play Green Onions because he knows I don't like green onions. I'm allergic to green onions.
He doesn't want this going out, does he? He doesn't want this information going anywhere.
He's absolutely. I mean, so you fire in, you go to the bowels of the earth, and he fires in green onions because he knows I don't like. I like red onions. I like red tuna and red onion.
Oh yeah.
I like that. Green onions. He knows. See, he's a. And he sends his man at the door. Hi, I'm Dave, I'm the front of house manager. He's not the front of house manager, no. He's Brian Ferry's henchman, basically. Yeah.
It's disgusting.
I know.
But anyway, let's forget Ferry. I don't think Ferry even deserves one more mention.
No, let's forget it. And Roxy music, because they were never as good as they thought they were.
No. So you're back at square one again, Phil. Basically, no money, but a new dream to create magic with your pen. And it doesn't take long. I mean, where did you, everyone who's listening will be wanting me to ask them, where did you get the idea for Allo Allo?
Oh God, well, and I need to be very careful of this again because when I was at Cambridge University, I fell in with the Cambridge Sibyl, who were communists. They were, what was it, the Oxbridge Four or something they were called. There was actually about 7 or 8 of them. And one of them, although he was a communist, he was a French communist, un communiste.
Yeah.
And he said to me, why don't you join the resistance? Because this was, although the war was over, effectively, there was still a resistance.
Yeah.
The Maquis a lot of them hadn't surrendered. You know, you used to get Japanese guys who were living in islands and still thought the war was going. Well, there was guys in bits of Paris and things like that who thought the war was still going. And so I basically joined.
Ferry, unbelievable. Basically, Ferry showed up at the door, tried to ruin it again, and Philip hit him. I hit him with the same move. Allegedly. The same move that I'd been talking about earlier on. It's phenomenal to see in the flesh. But anyway, back to. In fact, let's forget Allo. I think Ferry has ruined that moment. I think the secret.
No, it doesn't. It didn't like it. I mean, the fact that I was in the French Foreign Legion for many years, he saw that as just a way for me to get birds. That's what he said. And that's wrong. I had a lot of work to do there. A lot of things needed putting right, and that's what I did.
And a lot of people say that your next move was for birds as well. When you move on to work for Mills and Boon. And let's address the main. Is it true that on each and every book you would draw the male character on the front, and then a young Sarah Ferguson would come in and draw the female character?
No, what she did was she always would come in and stick Budgie the little helicopter, because remember, Sarah had part of the deal of Sarah marrying Andrew was the publishing deal that she could create Budgie. The little helicopter. So they got married on the Saturday and the Budgie books were in the shop on the Monday. Right. So then she gets signed up by Mills and Boon, and I'm doing all this work. And I could design everything, absolutely everything, the front cover. And suddenly, it's set in the windswept Yorkshire moors in the 17th century. And suddenly there's a bloody helicopter coming into the shop.
Because it's Fergie, it has to stay.
And it has to stay. And it's not even a real helicopter, it's a helicopter with a face. And helicopters, they don't have faces, they're not real. They're helicopters, they're real in the sense that they're helicopters, but they're not people. But she insisted. And to me, that kind of ruined it, really. It did Wuthering Heights, it's Wuthering Heights. As soon as you had a helicopter, it doesn't work. And she felt that she could do that to some of my work.
And it seems, from everything that I've read, she was in love with you at that time. There'd been a 5-year affair, and it seems incredible to think that she would smash all that to pieces just to get the Budgie books to hit the bestseller list. But anyway,
she's a ruthless woman, and she wanted Budgie the helicopter. I mean, she was doing. Remember, she was also doing Weight Watchers. She was the face of Weight Watchers, which I thought was a really bold. I thought Weight Watchers was all about losing weight. I didn't realise it was actually about putting on weight. Because the heavier she got, the more her profile increased. And maybe the whole helicopter thing was, could she be lifted off the ground by a helicopter? Maybe subliminally, maybe that's what she was asking.
And then you gave her away basically to Prince Andrew. I mean, what did you? I mean, why did you keep giving stuff to the royals?
I suppose maybe I want a knighthood. I mean, that's every guy's dream is. As many times I've said, people say if I was offered a knighthood, I would refuse it, and I don't know. Many times I've said, please give me a knighthood. And I've applied. I've written away. This is not how it works. I says, okay, I know BE then. No. MBE, no. CBE, no. Prince, no. They're just not interested.
Nothing.
So I'm getting nowhere with that. I thought maybe with the Queen getting on a wee bit, her last birthday, I think she's about 105 now or something like that. I thought it should be. I'm happy to do the job of Charles. You don't think Charles is right? Nah, nothing. But Prince Philip, I thought, there is already one. You could be doing a new one. I'll do it, but they're not going to give me it. No.
Fair enough. I sympathise. I've done a few of these shows now, Phil, and my research it throws up some stunning facts about my guests, but there's nothing compares to what Trevor McDonald describes as your African moon mission. I mean, what was that?
my African moon mission. That was all to do with. Have you ever seen the film The Ghost and the Darkness about the two lions?
No, I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
Well, it was nothing about that.
Yeah.
It was about they discovered the elephants, the poachers who were taking elephants' tusks. They do it at night because elephants they sleep at night, and people didn't realise that elephants slept at night. They saw elephants, they just kept wandering about, things like that. So the elephants were sleeping at night. The poachers were coming over, applying an anaesthetic, removing the tusks. The elephants wake up the next day, and lo and behold, they're tuskless, and they get depressed about things like that. The rhinos take the piss out and basically go, oh look, we've still got our horns. Then they started doing it to the rhinos as well. So my plan, and it was a tricky one, was to try and somehow, you know how they recently discovered gravitational waves? Well, what I was trying to do was use gravitational waves to sort of tilt the Earth on its axis ever so slightly, so that the moon, there was never a moon over Africa. Yeah.
To cheer them up, to try and cheer the elephants up.
Well, there would never be a moon, so the elephants would never fall asleep because it would always be daytime. They'd be picking up dust, throwing it over their heads, and the poachers would never have cover of darkness. You see, and that was the idea. And of course, then with the money that they would save by people working all day because it was sunlight all day, you could buy. And this is what it all comes back. You could buy helicopters, not budgeted helicopters, proper helicopters, so that they could fly over, because that's what they always do in these films. They always fly over, and the elephants run and they get chased. Yeah. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what it was all about. It was all about the moon. It was the moon that was affecting that. Because you know how the moon, like people's moods are affected by the moon. The word lunatic comes from lunar. It's from that. And that was, it was Trevor McDonald said, listen, between you and me, I think it's the moon that's driving the elephants daft, and they're sleeping and they're being robbed of their tusks. So that was the plan, but basically it's physically impossible to do that. So it was a bit of a waste of time, really. 10 years it took me to discover that you cannot tilt the Earth on its axis, even with using gravitational waves.
But I think, you just got to try these things, haven't you?
Well, we
have to give it a go.
We gave it a go. We gave it 100%, and I always think that if you come off the Serengeti, and you know that you gave 100%, you can have no regrets.
Yeah.
We didn't win, we lost that one. But as we walked off the Serengeti, we said, lads, we gave it our all. And in the dressing room, Trevor McDonald said as much, so I was happy with that.
And you get your reward in a way, because in that dressing room, as well as Sir Bobby Charlton, who's the then BBC chairman, he knows how much work you've done with the elephants. He knows you've given 10 years of your life, and he sees something in you. He wants to give you something back. So Sir Bobby approaches you and says to you, would you mind creating a show called Scotch and Rye? Now, he famously wanted Robert De Niro to be the star alongside the Crankies. How did you talk him out of that?
I said to him, when have you ever seen Robert De Niro doing comedy? And he said, the king of comedy. Yeah. And I went, wow, you got me there, Bob. I said, okay, when have you ever seen the Crankies doing comedy?
Yeah. You had
and he went, he hadn't. Yeah. And I went, that's my case. So got Ricky Fulton and Robert De Niro to be, they were going to be Francie and Josie, but Bob, as we call Robert De Niro, people who know, it was all, sure Josie, sure Josie. He didn't want to say sure, he just wanted to say, are you looking at me? Are you looking at me? So no, the line is, sure Josie, sure Josie, sure Josie. Yeah. Are you looking at me? I said, no, it's not going to work.
And did you have to fire him personally?
I did have to fire him, aye. And he says, listen, you can shove your job up here. He says, I'm going to go in and I'm going to make Godfather, Goodfellas, Casino. I go, you did that. I go on then, prove it, go, show me how good you are. And fair enough, he did,
Yeah.
So I mean,
your rejection made him.
Well, aye. I mean, the guy's got talent. There's no getting away from it.
It's just the wrong kind of talent.
The wrong kind of talent. He wasn't right for us. So in the end, I was glad we hunted him. Basically, it was trouble.
And the rest is history. You go on to make riches beyond your wildest dreams, and here we are with quail's eggs and caviar.
Tea and Cadbury's dairy milk and
Spoons and sugar,
spoons
the lot.
and brown sugar and white sugar.
Yeah.
At least I think it's white sugar, but I don't know. It could be something else.
Just the life that you live, isn't it? But anyway, finally, I'd like to. I'm going to give you. You said at the start you wouldn't do this, but will you? I'm going to ask you. Will you take our stand by or catch a ship challenge?
I'll do it.
Right. Okay. These are things that you've said in the past. But you know the rules, Phil. You either stand by what you said in the past, or you catch a ship, which is you distance yourself from the statements. So, first statement. I have the biggest garden in the west of Scotland.
No, that was a lie. I didn't even have a garden. I wanted to have a garden. I had a window box.
Yeah.
I had the biggest window box in my window.
Yeah.
But the garden thing, and I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry for all these landscape gardeners who were applying for work, who came to me in good faith. I let them down.
Yeah.
And I still regret that.
And as with all the guests who've appeared in the show, you've forgotten the catchphrase "stand by or catch a ship." So I need to the actual phrase before I can move on. Catch a ship, was that what you were thinking of?
Yeah.
Yeah. Next one, number 2. If I met Vladimir Putin, I would karate kick him in the neck.
Yeah. Well, I stand by that. I did say that, but I was steaming at the time.
Yeah.
And so was he.
Yeah.
And he was stripped to the waist. And it was a kind of
He's always stripped to the waist.
And it was a kind of Oliver Reed moment. He wanted to wrestle me. He was like, well, let's strip off and wrestle. I went, no. But I stand by that. I would kick him in the neck. Just the neck.
Okay. More people should try and chat to spiders.
Yeah, I stand by that. The great guys, spiders. I've got pet spiders. I keep pet spiders. I was never allowed to keep pets as a boy, apart from a moth that I had called Mothy. I had to get put down. They just went for life. Just put down. So then I went on spiders, and they're great. So I stand by that. Great pet.
And finally, something you said in 1980 in the foreword of a book of poetry that you wrote. All houses in Wales and France are haunted.
Well, I stand by that. Because I've been in all houses, every house in Wales,
every single
house. I know everyone. The fair, Glasgow Fair, I would go and I'd stay in 5 different houses every night. Basically, just sleep for a couple of hours every night. They're all haunted. Francis is the same.
Max Boyce's house?
Francis terrible, yeah. Max Boyce's house is haunted by Max Boyce.
Right.
Yeah, or the career of Max Boyce.
Last of all...
Sorry, Max, I didn't mean that. Max and I are great mates.
Yeah. You went ghost hunting together, didn't you?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. To France, where we discovered the
more of the same.
More of the same, basically.
Last of all, Phil, thank you so much for coming on, looking back. We have to do this. It's the funeral song. It's the tune that will take the differ to heaven or hell, where you'll meet your old pal, the devil. Why have you chosen Every Night We're Dying by The Years?
Well, that's an interesting choice because I've never heard Every Night We're Dying by The Years.
Yeah. So why did you choose it?
So that's why it's an interesting choice, because I just felt that Every Night We're Dying could be a comedian's anthem, basically, because that's what we dread. And what was the name of the band again?
The Years.
The Years. And I think I would choose that because the years have just been rolling in. And so it's a kind of combination of two things that I really don't understand.
Yeah. And if I'm, God forbid, I hope I die before you, but if I'm at your funeral, you want me to just whisper to the guests, he's not even heard this. Want me to pass that around or not?
Wait and see. I would give them cards with 1 to 5 on it and say, well, what would you, or hit or miss.
Yeah.
And when they play the song, they can go hit or miss, like they used to do in Jukebox Jury many years ago, and see how that goes. And if it's a hit, then if you could just say, well, Phil chose that himself. If it's a miss, just for me to say, sorry boy, it's my fault. Put your hand up. And listen, I'll tell you, if you don't do it, Brian Ferry will do it. Shoot, because he'll be there and he'll do it.
It's a beautiful end. And thank you so much again for coming on Looking Back. It's been a pleasure. Phil Differ, thank you very much. This is The Years, Every Night We're Dying.
Fortune's hiding in disguising. Though you look out of your window, you can't see it in the long grass, in the trees, and you're denied it. You and I leave an ordinary day, mine to find, digging deeper everywhere.